Hi, everyone. It's your host, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we are going to dive into the incredible world of spies. And this man is well known, the number one corporate spy. And he is now going to spill some tea on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. This is a unique topic. This is a really unique topic because who knew that this was something that was even industry wide. We all see it in movies, which this man has also an actor. So he's done it all, been it all. So we're going to talk about a little bit of his story from Hollywood to spies and everything in between. So you won't want to miss 1 second of this powerhouse speaker that we're bringing to the stage. Here we go. Hey everyone, I'm your host Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and today I have coming to the stage Mr. Robert Kerbeck. And this man is, we all know, right? We all see James Bond, we all see 007, the cool stuff. This man is an actor, but he's also been in the spy business, corporate spy. We all know the Russians spy on us from time to time and that the Chinese spy on us from time to time. But what about corporate spies, right? What about the spy next door? The spy at your job, the man, the woman that's doing it, and unbeknownst to us, we call them secret shoppers. Well, this man is more than a secret shopper. He is the absolute truth. But he's also an actor, which is exciting. He's been in books, he's been in films, he's been rubbing elbows with major celebrities across the board. Coming to the stage, help me welcome. I can't hold this man back anymore, Mr. Robert Kerbeck. Welcome to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm wonderful after that incredible introduction. That is all time. So I am very grateful. I'm gonna replay that when my wife is not treating me the way I think I should be treated, and say, "Look, just treat me like Marcus treats me, please."
Absolutely. Now I'm gonna get in trouble, y'all. I'm gonna get in trouble. But no, thank you. You've done the work, sir. Your work is phenomenal, and you giving back. I consider this a form of giving back. That you are actually kind of, I guess is the term. Is it still a whistleblower? Are you still considered? Is it still considered whistleblowing? I mean, who knew corporate
Yeah.
spying?
Yeah, right. I mean, I think you said it well in the beginning. You know, we know the Russians spy on the Chinese spy on us, but most people have no idea that corporations are spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year to spy on each other. It's pervasive. And I'm here to tell you, if any of your listeners are looking to pivot to a new career, there's plenty of work for corporate spies.
Wow. So tell me, what is the definition of a corporate spy? So we have an understanding before you guys go on Indeeds and Monster.com and fill out the applications. What is a corporate spy?
Yeah, well, there's no job listings for corporate spies, so I'll tell you that right now. So corporate spies are hired by corporations and oftentimes via intermediaries of corporations, because the corporations don't want to directly hire the spy, because if the spy gets caught, obviously that could impact them, obviously tremendously negatively stock price, because these are all huge companies, publicly traded companies. So they hire, executive recruiting firms that hire the spies, or consulting firms that hire the spies, and they want to find out anything and everything they can about their biggest rivals, right? Their plans, are they expanding? Are they contracting? Are revenues up? Are revenues down? What are the products in the pipeline? How far along are the products? What are the pricing strategies? Here's a really big one. Who are the people that work at the firm? But more importantly, who are the rock stars within those organizations, right? I mean, if you go and interview with a company, whoever goes and interviews with any company, they're always going to say, oh, I'm number one on my team. I'm the best one on my team. I'm incredible. But what we would do is we would verify using the firm's own internal metrics. So again, your listeners may have no idea. Corporations rank their employees. All corporations rank their employees, and we would find out what their kind of secret method for ranking was, and we would determine who the top producers were, who the most valued people were, and then we would recommend that our client poach those people. And oftentimes when you poach people like that, you get then their secrets come with them, right? And so, I always think about, I'm a big NFL fan. My team of the Philadelphia Eagles, 6-0, yeah. And imagine if you could get the playbook, right, on your competitor the Friday before the big game, right? How valuable would that be? That's what corporate spies do, is they get the playbook on their clients' biggest rivals.
And thank you for explaining that and going into detail about that. Who knew? And who knew? And that I had, you kind of get an impression that companies rank their well, they probably don't rank everyone, but maybe their top performers,
Yeah.
right? The top 10 or maybe the top 15, because to just rank everybody would just be just unnecessary. But your top performers, your golden people, your golden gooses, you want to kind of know who those players are. And not only, I guess, you reap the benefits of just bringing their playbook with them, but their clients as well, right? The whole
Yep.
shebang, right?
The whole shebang. Yep.
So that's a huge strategic move that corporations, but like you said. And so how did you get into corporate spy? Was it through an intermediary like you suggested? Because you're an actor.
Yeah.
How did they, was it through a film? Like they were just sitting in the audience one night and
Yeah,
pulled you
no,
to the side?
that would make sense. But no, I grew up in Philadelphia. My family, the Kerbeck family, is very well known in the automobile business. My great grandfather sold horse carriages before cars were invented. He switched over. He was one of the first car dealers in Philadelphia. My grandfather took over that business. My father took over that business, and I was expected to take over that business. And when I went to college, I kind of fell in love with acting. And when I graduated, I didn't know anybody that had, gone to New York to be an actor. It was just too daunting. And so I went to work for my father in the car business, and I just found it wasn't for me. The kind of trickery of car sales just didn't feel right to me, which of course is pretty crazy ironic, because then I stumble into a career as a corporate spy, which was far more dishonest than car sales. And so when I finally did get the courage to move to New York to try to be an actor, I needed a survival job, right? And I didn't have the patience to be a waiter. I wasn't a late night guy, so bartending was out. And a buddy of mine had this job. He mentioned something about it very briefly, and then he shut up as if he wasn't supposed to talk about it. And I said, "Hey, dude, I'm broke. Help me out. I need a job." And so he reluctantly got me an interview, but he didn't tell me anything about the job. I went to the Upper East Side. And for your listeners that might not know Manhattan, the Upper East Side is kind of the wealthiest area of Manhattan. And I go to this doorman building. I was living in Hell's Kitchen in a cave with two other guys. I take the elevator up to the penthouse. This woman opens the door in like leopard print pants and a martini and a cigarette. At least that's how I remember it. And she ushers me into the nicest apartment I've ever seen. Everything was white and luxurious. And so right away, I knew whatever this woman did, it was lucrative, right? She was making a ton of money. And she proceeded to conduct the strangest interview I've ever had. She never asked me anything about my skills. She didn't ask about the resume that I had with me. Back in the day, it was actually printed out. This is 90s. And she sent me on my way. I was pretty sure I didn't get the job because she didn't ask me anything or tell me anything about the job. But later my buddy called and said, "You're hired, but don't get too excited, because she hires everyone because no one is able to do this job." The next day I went to train out in Brooklyn. And this was, again, 90s Brooklyn. So there weren't hipsters with beards and coffee shops. It was the crack epidemic was still hitting hard. It was very poor, run down, dangerous. I go to this building. It's like a 5th floor walk up. I walk all the way up the stairs, knock on the door. This beautiful young woman opens it and says, "Come on in. You'll work in my bedroom." And I still had no idea what this job was, but it was starting to sound pretty good. And so I go into this woman's bedroom. She's got a futon on the ground and a desk. And she says, "Sit down at the desk." And she begins to tell me that what we do is we use our acting skills. We create voices and characters and personalities and personas. and we call corporations and trick people over the phone into telling us things and secrets that they should never ever tell us.
So this was your introduction to corporate spying. This wasn't you. What do you think made her pick you? Was it your acting skills and your professionalism? Was it your hair? Was it the blue eyes? What, like what do you think? Because you said it. You was like, I did not get this job, and then
Yeah.
she picked you anyway. What do you think it was about you that stood out?
Well, I think she hired, like I said, she hired everyone. She hired
Hmm.
everyone. I think the only hesitancy with hiring me was that I didn't know this at the time, but I very quickly found out that all of the spies that worked for her were women, with the exception of my buddy, who in the book Ruse is called Pax. With the exception of Pax and me, she only hired women because she felt women were the only ones that were able to do the job, that they were better at the job, and
And that's
she hired.
and that's to your credit. That's what, again, there's something different about you, even though she hires. That's what I wanted to point out. That's what I was looking
Yeah.
for.
Well, I mean, I think, look, the combination of coming from an entrepreneurial family, my
Yeah.
family had been in the car business. The placard on the front of the building said since 1899. So, you've got that entrepreneurial streak, and then, acting training. So, in a weird sort of way, I was ready made for this job. I didn't know that, of course. Nobody decides like when they're in high school, what would you like to do, Billy? Would you like to be an astronaut? Would you like to be a police officer? No, I think I'll be a corporate spy, you know. Um,
With
but
the guns and the martinis and the fancy
Yeah,
cars.
yeah, exactly. And what was interesting is, we did in the early days, we did go in person, out to events. We went to, some sporting events. We went to some bars. We went to some conferences. But the fascinating thing we learned pretty quickly was that we were able to get much more information using the telephone, because of the anonymity, right? Because of the anonymity, we were able to get people to believe we were offsite in a different office with the same company. We were executives with the company. We were in the LA office. We were in the London office. We were in the Chicago office, wherever we were. And so people would believe we were who we were saying we were. And everybody's trained to be a good corporate teammate, right? And so people would help out. And it was amazing the information that we could get. And we see that even today, right? With technology now, right? People use the anonymity of email, the anonymity of texts with all of these phishing things, and they're designed to create a crisis, create an emergency that you need to respond to right away, or there's going to be a big problem. And that's the same thing that we were doing. Now, one of the things, in the book Ruse, I wrestle with the ethical questions, right? Because obviously this job was not ethical. And the way I rationalized it, and again, this is just a rationalization, this doesn't mean it's right, because it's not, but I rationalized it in that I wasn't getting your personal information. I wasn't getting the credit card numbers of old ladies or anyone. I was dinging corporations, and for the most part, Wall Street firms. And of course, it doesn't take hard to look in the news and to see pretty regular scandals involving, Wells Fargo duping consumers, or Goldman Sachs being, somewhat responsible, maybe entirely responsible for the crash of 2008, depending on your perspective. So we've seen these firms over and over have a lot of pretty bad behaviors. And so in my mind, it was a survival job because I was going to be a famous actor. And that's kind of how I rationalized it, is like, look, this is part of capitalism. They're hiring spies. This guy's hiring spies. They're all hiring spies. So I'm just, doing what I'm doing.
That's fair.
And again, that's not to say it's right. I'm not proud of what I did, which is one of the reasons why I wrote the book, but it is a hell of a crazy good story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's huge. Round of applause for Mr. Robert Kerbeck, y'all. What you mentioned this several times, so I wanna pivot here. Your book. You wrote the book, the literal book. Where can people get it, and what should people expect out of this? Because this is a memoir
Yeah.
about what you've experienced. What can
Yeah.
people expect when they purchase this book, when they read it cover to cover?
Well, I tell people that I've written a true book about lying. which is a pretty unusual thing to be able to say. And it's kind of two books because I was a working actor. And so I was, drinking beers with Paul Newman. I was getting hit on by Kevin Spacey. I worked with O.J. Simpson the week before he became America's most infamous murderer, right? I was working with James Gandolfini. So I was, I did like 50 major TV shows, Star Trek, Melrose Place, NYPD Blue, ER. And so the spying job was just temporary. It was just temporary, and it was going to be over any day. It was going to be over. And at one point, I booked a whole bunch of pilots. None of those pilots went. And as an actor, you really need a pilot to get picked up, so it goes to a regular series, and then you get some name recognition, and then you can have a long career. But without that, it's really difficult to kind of keep it going. And after those 4 pilots didn't get picked up, I kind of, lost the wind kind of came out of my sails with acting. And that was when I kind of burrowed deeper and deeper into the world of corporate espionage and had a lot of close calls with basically, every major, authority in the world, the FBI, Secret Service, U.S. Marshals. And this is all part of Ruse. I tried to, I wrote it during COVID. And so I really wanted to write something that was fun to read. It's a page turner. It reads like a spy novel, but it's all true. And the best way, to learn about it, to buy it, is just go to my website, robertkerbeck.com. Obviously, you can purchase the book there from wherever you like to purchase books. And you can also watch the book trailer, because Ruse is being made into a TV series. And so you can kind of get a sense of that too.
Wow. Wow. I think I bit off more than I could chew on this interview. You guys, we have to go to a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Support for Gentleman Style Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers you precision engineering tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off free worldwide shipping with the code GENTSTYLE at manscaped.com.
We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and we have the incredible Mr. Robert Kerbeck, and he is spilling some of the tea, some powerful tea, on the world of corporate spying and how he transitioned to and fro, and how he's made a living doing corporate spy work and acting at the same time. How did you balance both of it, right? Because was the spy work supporting the acting, or was the acting supporting the spy work? How did you find the time? Because I can imagine, how did you even fit that into your schedule? Did you do some acting work and then you'd report back to your desk in Brooklyn, or did you, how did you do it all?
Well, remember, we live in an era now where you can work from home because of COVID. But back in the day, to be able to work from home was a really rare thing. And we were able to do that because this job you could do from anywhere. You just needed a telephone, right?
Right.
And so that was a real benefit for actors because, I could work for 2 or 3 hours, go to an audition, come back, work for 2 or 3 hours, go to another audition. So it was an incredibly convenient job for actors, which is why we wanted it and why we kept it. Because in the beginning, and your audience will crack up when you hear this, for most of the early years, I was getting paid $8 an hour. It was really just, it was just a subsistence level job. And of course, by the end of my spying days, I was making $2 million a year.
What changed? What changed? That's a drastic pay increase.
Yeah.
Are you talking? Wait, it was $8 from the acting or $8 from spying? The corporate spying.
I was getting $8 an hour for spying when I first started in the 90s. And by the mid 2000s and late 2000s, I was making millions of dollars a year.
What changed?
Well, what changed is initially, of course, I was working for someone else. And so she was making the lion's share, right? It was her company. So she was making whatever she was making and then just paying us as little as possible. And she knew we were actors. that didn't really want to be corporate spies. And so, she could just pay us, she knew it was a convenient job for actors. So she kind of had us over to the proverbial barrel, like most bosses have their employees over, right? And then at a certain point, people started to hear about me and hear about my work. And all of a sudden they started contacting me on the side to spy for them. And they, of course, were offering me, much, much more money. And eventually I left the woman that I was working for and started my own company. And then, bigger corporations started hearing about me. And, I only had I was one person. How much spying can you do? And so all of a sudden, corporations were basically bidding. And if I said no, they would just offer me more money. And then they would be, and then the next person would offer more. And it was just like this crazy, Wall Street, the two major industries that I spied in were Wall Street and tech, right? And they are so cutthroat. They are so competitive. They're looking for any edge they can get. And they're willing to spend, in my case, millions, but in the case of other things, hundreds of millions of dollars to learn anything that they can, right? Legendary CEO of Apple, Steve Jobs, he was such a believer in corporate secrecy that he told his employees, forget about if you release corporate secrets, forget about you're going to lose your job. We're going to charge you with crime. Okay, we're going to sue you. And he really put the fear of God into his workers. And even to this day, Apple is one of the best companies in the world at protecting their secrets. I mean, he refused to let his designers be listed in the corporate directory because he did not want them poached by a rival. Because imagine if you could get the name of the design team in the early days of the iPad and poach one or two of those designers, how much money would that have been worth? Billions of dollars.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So what is the most valuable piece of information from corporation that they did they give you a target? Like, I really want, was it the employees or was it just the knowledge or information so they could reverse engineer it? What was the most valuable thing and the most sought after thing that corporations really wanted you to go after for them?
They wanted everything. They wanted everything. They wanted it all. Now, think about it again. I use the football analogy. So, if you are able to get the top quarterback from another team and bring them over to your team's fortunes can change like that, right? Yeah. Now, we know who the top quarterbacks are because they're on TV, right? And we see their statistics. We know who they are. But in corporate America, even with LinkedIn, which has many people, but LinkedIn doesn't tell you who the rock stars are. LinkedIn doesn't have a metric to prove that this guy's the top producer or this woman's the top banker or this, kid's the up and comer, right? That's what we would do. And so imagine if your firm is number 7 in an industry, they're in, the 7th ranked out of whatever, 50 firms that do that or 25 firms, and you steal 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 top people from the number 1 or number 2 ranked firm. All of a sudden now you're number 7, you go to number 3, the firm that was number 2, they go to number 5, just from the changing of top talent, right? And then of course we would layer on top of that information about who the rock stars were, all of the plans, like what were their strategies, who were their clients, who were they pitching, who did they just lose as a client, like anything and everything that would give their rivals intelligence that they could leverage that was actionable. That's what they were after.
I feel like you're a broker, and what I mean by that is you could almost you made a living off of this, obviously, but I feel like you were a broker. Like, you could literally say, hey Google, I know the top VPs of your competitor, your 3 top competitors, pay me this much and I'll release that information. You could almost write your own ticket by doing spy work and infiltrating these organizations, and then go to Google or go to Apple and say, hey, I know something you don't know. And right. I know something that'll put you at the top in this area or this department, or what Disney's working on, or what Microsoft is working on, or Pixar, or any of these industries. You could almost, what tactics would you use to even figure it out? Because like you said, it's not posted on LinkedIn. They're not going to advertise. They're not going to put it on their website who their top engineer is. Like Elon Musk, he's not going to put his top engineers public information out there because he doesn't want you to know.
No, and even on LinkedIn, what's amazing about LinkedIn is, as successful as it's been, there are only approximately 60 to 70% of executives on LinkedIn. right? And oftentimes, if they are, even if they're on LinkedIn, their profile hasn't been updated because they're killing it where they are. They don't want to be inundated with requests from amateur hour executive recruiters and headhunting firms. So a lot of the real rock stars are what we call passive candidates. They're hidden. And what we would do is when we would call these corporations is we would uncover many of those. And oftentimes the hidden executives we would uncover would be the number one or number two individual in their group, in their organization. And those are the people that really can take one company and change their fortunes almost in a dime by bringing them over. And one thing I wanted to say is, one of the things that's been most surprising about writing this book is, so I write this book, I out myself as a corporate spy, which basically means, people know I'm a spy now, so I wouldn't be a very good spy if I continued to spy. So I'm retired, and I've been retired for a while. But I cannot tell you, Marcus, how many corporations have contacted me since I wrote the book saying, Robert, we read your book. You have to come and spy for us, please.
Oh, wow. They want you to come out of retirement.
They want me to come out of retirement. So, I mean, it sounded like I was joking with your listeners that if they want to pivot to a career in corporate espionage, there's plenty of work, but I was not kidding. There's plenty of work.
Even today, there's still plenty of work.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. Yeah.
Have you ever been caught or arrested?
I have not. But, without spoiling the book too much, at one point, every authority in America was chasing me because they thought that at the time, me and my buddy Pax, the guy that got me the job, they thought that we were the most famous hacker in the world, who was on the most wanted list, and somehow they stumbled onto our path. And let me tell you, that was a moment where everything got real very, very quickly, because here was this job that we knew wasn't ethical, and we knew it was kind of quasi illegal, but we never thought that we could be arrested as domestic terrorists and sent to jail for 10, 20 years, which is what happened to the hacker when they caught the hacker.
The true hacker.
The true hacker.
So is this illegal? It doesn't, I mean, obviously corporations, the biggest risk to corporations finding out that they've been spying on their competitors is the tarnished and the blemished name. But
Right.
Is it necessarily illegal to spy on your competitor and to know what he's doing so that you can make a better product? I mean, that's the kind of principle of corporations, is like, you have something better, well, I need to offer it. So you have a cheaper price, I need to offer it. That's the competitiveness of corporate America. It keeps things flowing.
Yeah, no doubt. And but when you're using deception, right? When you're using outright trickery and manipulation and fraud, that is illegal.
Gotcha.
That's illegal. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's part of the thing that happened. I had a child, and one day my child was, I think, about 8, and heard me on the phone, heard me, rusing on the phone, tricking someone on the phone, and said, "Hey, Dad, are you a hacker?" And I said, no, I'm not a hacker. I'm just getting information that's helping people get better jobs, part of the capitalist system, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And they said, but it's dishonest. And I went, yeah, it is. It is dishonest. And that was like the light bulb moment where I was like, okay, I gotta get out of this. I gotta stop this. And that was when I really, started to, basically exit strategy. And then all of a sudden, kind of turned around. I had been an English major before I got into acting. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, if I'm not going to spy anymore, what am I going to do that's going to give me joy and give me pleasure? And I went back to writing. And my first book was about the terrible wildfire. The book's called Malibu Burning. It was about the terrible wildfire that burned down half of Malibu a few years ago. And we fought that fire, and we saved our house. 17 of 19 houses on our street burned to the ground. And I wrote an essay for the Los Angeles Times, which a publisher read and then asked me to write a book about it. And it was a real labor of love because, people think everyone in Malibu is rich and famous. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. And many of the people that stayed behind and fought the fire were just regular, people. And a number of those people saved entire neighborhoods by themselves with no help. Sometimes just with their boots, they were putting out fires, saving their homes, neighbors' homes. So there were all these incredible stories. So I wrote this book, and it really got a lot of great attention. And then after I wrote that book, I said, well, you know what? The statute of limitations has run out on any potential crimes I may have committed in my spying days. And so now I'm going to write Ruse. And Ruse came out earlier this year. And Frank Abagnale, who wrote Catch Me If You Can, gave me an amazing blurb. He read the book and he flipped over it. And then because he wrote this great blurb, all of a sudden people in Hollywood started paying attention, because obviously the movie made on his book, Catch Me If You Can, was such a huge hit. And that's what started the TV show.
Absolutely. Love it. And thank you for writing the book on and highlighting those people and the heroism and the heroicness of what they did. So Robert Kerbeck, we have one more short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We got to pay some bills. We got to pay our corporate spot. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have any spot. We got to pay some bills. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for a reliable, professional trucking and logistics service, you've come to the right place. Musa Trucking is a veteran-owned and operated premier transportation provider that can help with all of your trucking and logistics needs. Musa is revolutionizing the trucking industry through strategic partnerships, the development of core personnel, and the use of cutting-edge technology. Our inventory system ensures that cargo ends up divided into the right trucks and reaching the correct destination. Our drivers are dedicated to transporting goods efficiently and safely. Contact us today to get started by visiting the website on the screen or by calling 757-756-5246.
We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. We have Robert Kerbeck spilling the tea on corporate spy and how he got into the industry, how he went from Hollywood and back and forth into corporate spy, how he got into it, and how he's writing the book and sharing his experience and his story, his incredible dynamic story for all of us to learn and grow. And now he's being recruited again. So he retired. He's a retired spy, but he's now being sought after again for his expertise and skill in this arena. Mr. Kerbeck, you've been phenomenal. When is the film about this movie? When can people expect to get their hands? Is it released already?
Oh, you mean for the Ruse series?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that takes quite some time, right? So I'm guessing, where are we? We're 2022, fall of 2022. So I'm guessing probably early 2024, because shooting a TV show, takes a lot of time, and then even after it's shot, it usually doesn't come out right away. I just watched the last episode of the new House of the Dragon show, and the last episode I thought was the best episode of the whole season. So then you Google right away, when is season 2020? When is the second season coming out? And they're like 2024. I'm like, yeah, of course I should have known. It's a long wait.
It's true. It's so true. And it's heartbreaking. It's like, what? Now I gotta binge something else until you come back and I gotta watch something else. Sir, this has been an epic episode today, and I thank you for giving back in this way and sharing. Any final tips? I always ask my guests on the show if they could spill a nugget, some advice, some words of encouragement, any advice to that young actor in Hollywood who's struggling to get off the ground, who's struggling to make it. Right, because it's not easy. You hear a lot about actors who are now famous now, their struggles to get prominent in the industry. Right, Rocky Balboa, right, The Rock, all these prominent people. What advice would you give to that young boy, that young girl?
I think perseverance, and you can't look at where you are today. You can't worry about where you are today. You just got to keep doing the work, grinding. Right? Every day you're training, every day you're studying, every day you're taking a class, every day you're reading a screenplay or a play, and you just keep doing that with your head down. And you meet people not to network, but to really get to know people and develop relationships with people and get close with people that you like and whose work you appreciate and you admire. And you keep doing that. You keep your head down, and all of a sudden you pick your head up in 5 years, and you will be shocked at how far down the road you've gone.
I love that. Love that. Mr. Kerbeck, how can my audience connect with you? How can we get on board, and how can we get our copy of the book?
Well, please go to my website, robertkerbeck.com, and you can email me right from the website. So if you read the book and you have some questions, or you just want to say something nice, or you want to learn more about how you too can become a corporate spy, go to my website, email me. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Love it. Love it. Love it. There you have it, y'all. The man, the myth, the legend. We got to let Mr. Kerbeck go. He has a company to run and many more books to write and a series and a film to produce. So we're not waiting till 2024. No, I'm just kidding. It takes time. It takes time, y'all. But thank you, sir, for being here. Thank you for giving back in this way. It is an honor to have you on the show. Keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you very, very much.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, Marcus. It was really a joy.
Absolutely. And I hope this was a joy for you, my audience, for tuning in. I hope this message has served you and inspired you and gave you some insight into the world we live in. And I hope this was helpful. And like you said, connect with him on his website and email him directly, and he'll respond to you when he has time in between films and acting. So thank you all for tuning in. I love you guys. Like I always end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always take care of business. This is Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show, your favorite gentleman, and Mr. Robert Kerbeck, the man, the number one ex-spy in America. Love you guys. Bye.
Hey.
I'll edit this out. Oh my gosh. Still spinning. Come on. Come on.
Safe to talk?
In a second. I gotta reload the page.